So why do we do the 5-year forecast? Financial forecast is, it's required by state law. State wants us to do it, and that's, the initial one is in August. That's the one I'm presenting. This is the first one for fiscal year 2027. And this will be updated 6 months from now. The last day of February is when it's due. So I'll have an update in February for this one. Basically, the forecast has the budgeted revenues and expenditures for this year. And for next years, it has forecasts, like assumptions. How much would we be getting in revenues and expenditures? And the 5th year has been eliminated, so that's why it's no longer a 5-year forecast anymore. It's just a financial. The objective of the 5-year forecast for us, it's basically financial planning. It helps us budget. It helps us figure out when we need to go for another levy. On the state side, they use it to figure out, are we doing well financially? Do we have to go on fiscal caution, fiscal watch? These are the revenue sides of a 5-year forecast. As expected, property taxes and then the state foundation are the 2 biggest revenue sources for us. If we look at it, 67% of our revenue is property tax revenue from our local taxpayers, and then 15% is state foundation. Everything else is 17% is a mixture of TIF from Cornerstone, state support for property taxes and other stuff. So 2026 is a reappraisal year, and there's a myth. Hey, my property value goes up by 20%, my property taxes will go up by 20%. So this one looks at that. If you look at, there's like 3 spikes. Those are 3 reappraisal years during the forecast. One's the 2023 reappraisal, when our property values almost went up by 27%. This year, it's about 18.32% for us, and the assumption is in about 2029, there'll be about 14% increase in. But if you look at the purple line, that's the actual property tax revenue. It never goes up by as much as the property valuations go up by. And that's because there's a thing called reduction factors. They come in, they reduce the effective rate by as much as the valuations went up by. So for most part, the black line is our new construction. So if you look at the purple line, the increase in our property taxes, and black line, that's new construction. They go hand in hand. The off year was 2025 because we got $1 million extra in delinquent property taxes. So it's because of delinquencies. It's not because of valuations or anything, or it's just delinquencies. So the next big thing was impact of property tax reform. What did it do to our financial forecast? So if you look at 2026, 18.32% is what our values are going up by. 9.15 is what the GDP deflator is in House Bill 186. So we're not on 20 mil flow, but any other Green County district, their property taxes can only go up by 9.15%. The only thing it impacts us on is the inside millage. If you look at it, last year it was 4.5 mils. It will go down to 4.11 mils next year. And that's because it's for the first time in history that inside millage will actually start going down as the property values go up. So they'll go down until we hit the 20 mil flow. Once we hit the 20 mil flow, they'll stop. And the other thing right in the middle is effective millage for 20 mil flow. If we were on the old calculation method, we would have been at 22.53 next year, but we'll be at 25.45. And that's because now we have to include our emergency levy in the 20 mil flow. It was not included earlier. So for us, it doesn't make any difference. For some districts, they were on 20 mil flow and they won't be on 20 mil flow anymore because they have emergency levies like Beaver Creek. So looking at this, if you look at a property tax revenue, basically it's flat line. There's nothing. In 2029, you see the golden. That's the assuming that we'll have a renewal of our emergency levy. It expires on December 31st, 2028. So we'll need to renew it before that. Our next big revenue line.
Before you go on, can I just?
Yeah, sure.
So just those pieces there before, even though the values are going up, the amount of money, quote, extra money is much, much, much smaller than those increases in the value. It's not increase in taxes, it's increase in the value of the house, is that percent?
Yeah, basically all the new money we're seeing is because of new construction. That's the only new money we're seeing right now.
So this chart is the amount of additional money that we would get from any kind of new construction or increase in property values.
Yeah.
And as you can see, it's pretty flatlined. This is our real estate property taxes. So even though maybe home values are going up, the amount of money that the school district is receiving is pretty flatlined, maybe just a little bit of increase each year. Is that right?
That's correct. Like if you look between 27 and 28, 28 would be the first fiscal year where we have the full year of new valuations. It's only going up by 300,000, and most of it is still new construction. It's not valuations. The next one is unrestricted grant in aids. That's a state foundation revenue. So if you look at it, I have a note at the bottom. Our state funding is based on 2022 values. So state is looking at what the average teacher salary was in 2022, what we were paying for utilities and everything in 2022. And that's what they base their state funding on. Last biennial update in 25-26, they did not update it to 24. So, we had historically high inflations during 22, 23, 24. That's not accounted for in our state funding. And that makes a big difference for us. So our project.
So before you go into that, can I interrupt again so you can go back to the last screen?
Yeah.
So again, the general theme is pretty flatlined of the amount of money that we're getting from the state.
Yeah.
Not big increases or anything. So local property tax is pretty flatlined. State funding, pretty flatlined.
And basically that's most of our funding at this time.
Sorry to interrupt. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Thank you. So our projected average daily membership, this is not how many students we teach. This is, the state has its own calculation of how to fund us. So for example, high school has students who are taking classes from Greene County Career Center teachers. So Greene County Career Center gets funding for them. So they are less than one for us. So they might be counted as like 0.75 student for us. So right now in 2026, we got funded for 2494, and basically it stays flat. Enrollment is not projected to go up. It might slightly go down, but it's not supposed to be that much of a fluctuation in it.
So our actual kids in seat numbers are higher than that. That is just because
They
a
are much
kindergarten student who's
Half.
part-time, they get funded half-time.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not half a
Kindergarten
student.
gets
We get
half-time.
funded for half. So that's why those numbers are lower than actual
Yeah, it depends on
kids in
actual
seats.
classes. Yeah. So the next one is state calculation. So how state does the calculation of how much funding we'll get is based on local capacity per pupil. So state comes in, they look at how much income taxes we're paying, or our taxpayers are paying, how much income taxes are coming from Bellbrook-Sugarcreek local schools, how much property values, how much is the valuation, total valuation of property. And as you can see, it's going up every year. So every year the state will come in, they'll say, hey, your property values are going up, your taxes are going up, and they'll adjust the valuations, they'll adjust their funding model. So what that does for us is, if you look at it, even though our funding is straight, you can see the golden line increase, and that golden is our guarantee. So because we're getting bare minimum from the state of Ohio, they say, hey, we have to give you at least minimum this much, and it's about $6 million. So to make up to that, bring us up to that $6 million, they are increasing our guarantee. So that's money we're getting in addition to our base cost, which is about $800 per student, to bring us to that $6 million mark. So because they're saying, hey, the taxpayers can afford more, so they're reducing our base cost, but now they're like, hey, we're not paying, funding you enough, so they're increasing our guarantee. And that's the story with most of the school districts in Ohio. We consider a rich suburban school districts, but there are other school districts that might not even be considered rich, and they are still on this guarantee. So now the question is, if our enrollment increase, how much enrollment do we need before this guarantee goes away? And that's purple is what our enrollment is right now, which is less than 2,500, and about 2,800, the golden one, is how many kids we need before we have no guarantee, and it's all state funding. So until we hit more than 2,800 students, we are not going to see a dollar extra from state funding.
So if we get 250 additional kids, K to 12, we wouldn't get any additional money from the state.
We're not, yeah. Our guarantee will go down, our state funding will go up, but total will be exactly the same. So that's where the issue arises. So if you look at our, everything's going up. Our salaries are going up, utilities are going up way too much. So our cost of educating a student is going up every single year. It's gradually increasing. It's $15,000 about this year, and it's supposed to go up to $19,000 by 2031. But state funding is flat, like $802 is what we're getting for every student base funding, and then $3,000 is additional money we get. That includes the guarantee, and if there's any, we get some disadvantaged pupil impact aid, we get some for other restricted monies. So all that money combined, it's less than $4,000. Everything else is paid for by our taxpayers, and that's why we're so tax dependent.
So whatever's in the red there, that's what the state is giving us, and to make up the difference between that and the line, the local property taxes are paying for that difference.
Yeah, basically,
Yes.
right now they're paying about $11,000, and if nothing changes, by 2031, they'll be paying about $15,000 will be paid for by our taxpayers. Now the thing is, next year, 27, 28 is the new tax biennium budget, and depending on the new legislature and the new government and everything, they could increase, they could move the base year from 2022 to let's say 26, and all of a sudden they'll have all that inflation that happened will be factored in, and our state funding could go up. But that's a big if. We don't know what will happen, so we're assuming that it stays flat until state does something.
So the state is funding us based on what it costs to educate a student in 2022,
Yeah.
not in 2026.
And technically, when they calculate the base cost, our base cost is $8,000. It's not costing us $8,000 to educate a student. It's $15,000. So the state base cost is lower than what it's actually costing any school district. So there's two gaps. There's a gap between the base cost. We only get 10% of the base cost, and then there's a difference between base cost and what the actual cost is, which is $15,000. So the difference between 8 and 15,000 is also covered by our taxpayers.
And that's particularly striking since our cost per pupil is below the state average already as it is.
It is, yeah. We are one of the best, most fiscally conservative school districts around here, and still it's hard to manage.
Yes.
So the next thing is expenditures. Expenditures, our biggest expenditures are personnel services, which are fringe benefits and salaries, and then purchase services. Those are the three big expenditure line items. And like anything, everything is projected to go up in the future. It's raises, steps, increases, health insurance, and then for purchase services, utilities. The electric bills are supposed to go up big time. Diesel has been really expensive. That's part of purchase services. So gasoline, diesel prices have gone up. So that's factored to increase significantly. So if you look at our expenditures, 73% is on our teachers, includes fringe benefits and salaries. And then 19% is our purchase services, which includes our preschool from Greene County Career Center. So a portion of it is for our preschool services. So if you look at our personnel services, they gradually go up every year, about 4%, which includes raises plus step increases. And they are about $21.1 million, $21.2 million last year, and they are projected to go up to $25.6 million by 2031 at only 4% increase. So it's not a significant increase or anything, and no changes in how many employees we have. Employee benefits increase significantly more, and that's because of health insurance. We had a meeting with the health insurance people, Butler Health, and they said, look at 9% for the foreseeable future. And that's what's factored in, 9% increase in health insurance costs until 2031. Purchase services are going up significantly, and as I mentioned earlier, it's basically utility costs. Electricity is supposed to go up. I had a meeting with IGS Energy, and they said our capacity cost should be increasing for next 4 or 5 years until the way they worded it is we are running 21st century infrastructure on 20th century infrastructure. And there's a gap, and to fill up that gap, it will take 4 or 5 years, and until then, the cost will go up until our utility companies have enough energy. So in the end, this is our revenues compared to expenditures. If you look, about this year, will be about even. Our expenditures and revenues should match. We are showing a deficit of about $6,000, which is insignificant, so it can go either way. But after that, we enter deficit spending. So our expenditures will be more, our revenues are flat, so we will start using our cash balances at this time, starting next year. So here's the cash balances. Look at the purple one is actual cash, golden one is unencumbered balance, so it doesn't include purchase orders. And they go down some this year, but after that there's a significant drop. And by 2031, we only have like $3 million left. which might not be enough to make payroll for the month of July. Because it's, right now the payroll is about $1 million a pay, so about $2 million. By then it will be greater. So we might not have enough money to even make payroll by 2031. So
And this is still presuming there's no renewal levy.
it includes
These
renewal
numbers.
levy. Yeah,
This
I
is-
included it.
This is including the renewal.
Yeah, yeah, it's including the renewal levy. Without the renewal levy, we're like $5 million negative. So the key takeaways are like until 2029, our financial outlook looks good. After that, we seriously have to consider a new levy, and legislative changes will make an impact. They're still talking about property tax reform, and whatever comes from the state legislature can make a big difference. If they change the base year for our calculation, that can make a big difference for us. Our continued focus is on long-term sustainability and fiscal responsibility. That's how we look at anything we budget, anytime we spend money, we make sure how does it impact us in the long run, not just the short term. And another big factor coming in is the increased school choice program, because state has limited resources also. So once if it's giving $1 billion for school choice programs, that means there's $1 billion less for programs like school funding. And the shift of property taxes to homeowners. So there's still property tax, there's exemptions coming along. There's changes to property tax law that favors the businesses more than the residential. So there's a big shift towards the residential taxpayers. And it's been historically like, it was less than 50% was paid by residents. Now it's about 70% is paid by the residential property taxpayers. That's all I have. After your approval, I'll submit this to the Ohio Department of Education. And that's the next step. Any questions?
What year, like if nothing changes, would we need to have a renewal levy on the ballot?
Okay, so renewal will need it about 27, late 27, early 28, because it expires in 28. New levy about 2030 is when, if you can see our cash balance is below the red line, which is the GFOA recommended 90 days worth of cash. So about that time period, we have to look for a new money. We have to look for a new levy at that time. Now these projections will change with the future, as the new state budget is finalized next May, June. So things can change. It can work in our favor. It can go other way also. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it seems like you're trying to make a projection based on so many factors that are likely to change wildly over the next
Yeah.
year.
And
I mean, if
that's why it's a forecast. I think the big thing is like, in the near future we're good. Next 2 or 3 years we're good. And, the forecast will change. Every time I do it, it will change. With the new information we have, hopefully it changes for the better, not the worse. We'll find out.
I mean, just to make a few points, and I've made a few already, of just the local property taxes are staying flat. State funding are staying flat. We're being funded from the state at FY22 dollars, and things cost FY26 dollars.
Yeah.
They don't cost FY22 dollars. And so we're starting to deficit spend this year, so that deficit spending is going to continue to start increasing. That really what eats into that cash balance. And so the bigger deficit, obviously, each year, the bigger it eats away at that cash balance. So either you have to increase revenues or you got to decrease expenditures. Those are the only two ways to do things. And our biggest area of our expenses is obviously our staff. We're a people business. So
Yeah.
that's the challenge with this. And we're trying to be really cognizant of that, especially at our lower grade levels where we do have some smaller class sizes. We're reducing through attrition just to be smart and right size and make sure that the small changes that we can make now, they carry over to subsequent years. We're trying to be smart in that as we look towards the future.
And we do have a bond issue that's about, what year is that the bond issue?
2031?
Is it 2031?
2031.
Yeah, 2031.
So 2031, our bonds are paid off, the buildings are paid off, and so it's about 2 point some mil that's done at that time, that levy is done at that time. Thank you.
Thank you.